About to start the flooring layout here in this renovation, and there's a number of things to think about when you do stuff like this. So generally the best practice for laying flooring is you want the flooring to lay perpendicular to the direction that the floor joist runs, and the floor joists are in this direction. So it's best to run the flooring across the joists like that, which is great because we've got this 50-foot span from front to back, and you want to make a nice straight line with your flooring. You don't want it to waver around as you sight down it, because that just looks terrible. So other considerations, you also don't want to end up with a tiny little sliver of flooring on the outside walls. And you know, a lot of guys they'll start on a wall over there, for example. They'll start on an outside wall and they'll just bring the flooring in that direction and kind of hope that they end up over here with, you know, more than half of a piece of flooring. So what I do is I snap an arbitrary line. I just pick a line. I drew 70 inches off this exterior wall, made a mark, used the chalk line, and then I filled it in with the Sharpie all the way down. And then you take that measurement, 70 inches, you divide by 3.25, which is the width of the flooring material, and you come up with a number. And so that divided by 325, here's the 325 exposure on the hardwood. Came up with a number of courses and a half. So that actually works pretty well. Then I drew in the other direction, and I used the handy laser measurer. You set that on your mark, and pick it up to where it's hitting the outside wall. Came up with about 13.6 and a half. Do the math, 13.6 and a half is 162.5 divided by 3.25, you get 50 courses. So then that's just about perfect. You want a full course or less. So what I'm gonna do is, when I set the paper down, I'm gonna shift that line this way by, I don't know, half an inch or so, because we had a half piece there and we had a full piece there. So we're going a little less than a full piece, a little more than a half piece on the exterior wall. And when I begin this, I'm gonna run the vapor barrier paper down, re-snap that line, set some cleats on the floor, and start pegging the floor in and then going in that direction. We wanna get this section done first because the cabinets are arriving on Tuesday and we wanna place to set them down. So here we go, let's start knocking this in. Part of that layout that you do here when you pull that arbitrary line, so like I said, I pulled off 70 inches off the exterior wall to find these points. In an old house, you're not sure if the house was actually parallel. So that's why it's important. This line is parallel to that exterior wall, so then I had to pull off of that wall to make sure that we're parallel. And we're actually pretty good. They did a pretty good job with that 150 years ago, whenever it was that this thing was built. So we're good to go. Otherwise, you know, you have to adjust your line a little bit so that you don't end up with a weird taper. If the walls are if they're not parallel to each other, sometimes you end up with a taper piece on one end or the other, and that just looks terrible. When you put the baseboard down, you've got this little piece that tapers back, and you try to avoid that if you can. All right, day 2 of the flooring install. Kitchen renovation. Got about 350 square feet knocked in. The whole kitchen area is ready to go. Cabinets will be arriving on Tuesday. So we got those bottoms of those doors trimmed to the angle of the floor because it's out of level. Really like this. It's not an A grade flooring. It's got it's a maple, but it's got lots of color to it. If you get the A grade, all of the pieces look like this. And to me, it ends up looking like laminate, but it's a preference. And it's what they selected, and I like it. So yeah, 350 square feet in, got about 500 left to go between all these little areas and into that front space.